This is The Good Government Show.
So we are a resort community. Most of our jobs are in retail, restaurant, and lodging. They are not particularly high-paying jobs, but they're very labor-intensive jobs. We have a real need for a strong and consistent workforce. And so childcare becomes critical. I think so many people have learned during this recent pandemic how important it is to have childcare in order to keep people in the workplace. And that's something that we've known here in Summit County for many years.
You know, our children are performing really well across the board, so we're really excited about that. I think the story that is important to tell is how much support we've given and financial relief we've given to these working families. We're averaging about $800 a month per child for their tuition credits. And then, so that's a yearly savings about $12,000 to $15,000 a year. And I think that is monumental for parents. I've gotten some anecdotes from them that it just has allowed them to continue to live here in our community.
Welcome to The Good Government Show. I'm Carol Dioria.
And I'm Dave Martin. And on this episode of The Good Government Show, we're talking about something we both had to deal with, Carol, both of us, and something every parent can relate to. That's childcare. And that's what this story is about. So as you listen, make sure to follow us and please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and please rate us where you're listening to us right now. Well, not right now. Listen and then go back and rate us. But it helps us bring you more good stories of good government action, good stories like this one. So, Carol, you have two kids. They're grown now, but once you had to have help raising those kids, didn't you?
I did. So what happened was I was really lucky. My family is, not only are we close in our relationship, but they were physically close by. My parents lived 2 blocks away. My sister lived, about 10 blocks away.
That's because you people on Long Island never leave.
Yeah, we never leave, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so for a long time, they all watched my kids. It got a little more difficult as they started to grow up.
Well, your parents were there. They helped, right?
Right. And then as they grew up, though, then they started to, my kids had their own schedules. So it got to be a little too much and I had to hire paid help.
Well, I was lucky too. So when my daughter was really young, when she was little, my wife's mother, she was pretty close by. So she'd watch the kid. And then her sister, for the first few years, she lived like directly across the street. It was very
convenient.
It was great. It was like the only place that was the first place my daughter could go to by herself. She was very excited. Can I go to Mary Beth's? Can I go to Mary Beth's? So imagine that you didn't have that. Imagine you're working your job on the radio. You have late shifts, you have overnight shifts, you had weekend shifts, and it was just you, maybe your husband, or maybe just you and your kids.
And that would have been so hard not to have family around. Oh my, I can't imagine.
Right. Agreed. And look, childcare is so important and can be so difficult and it can be expensive, especially if you can't afford full-time daycare or an in-house nanny or an in-house babysitter. And it's just, it's just one of those things you don't really think about until you have your kids and you have to go back to work or have a life.
Exactly. And, when you have a baby, you don't immediately think, well, who am I going to get to watch this kid? You're so busy going coochie-coo that, you want to think about that.
Right. Now, imagine you have to do this. Imagine you're a mom, 2 kids. Imagine you have to do this in a beautiful, expensive tourist mountain resort.
Oh.
Yes, I'm talking about a town with the multi-million-dollar vacation homes. This is a place for the 1%. You have private jets taking on and off and landing.
I could really get into this.
Well, you could if you could.
I'd be one of the paupers there.
You might. This is a county of vacation homes. It's where some of the best skiing is in the nation. In the summer, folks go there for the rafting, for the hiking. They go for mountain biking, and it's all of the Colorado Rocky Mountains. This is Summit County in Breckenridge, Colorado.
Wow. Colorado. First you went to West Virginia. Now you're telling another story from another mountain range. I love it.
Exactly. Well, listen, here on the Good Government Show, we travel the country to bring great stories to our Good Government Show listeners. So, okay, Summit County. It's about halfway between Aspen and Denver, and it got its name from the many summits in the mountains in the area. It's also one of the highest elevations of any county in the United States. So it's up there in the mountains. One summit was a booming mining town back in 1800s. Now it's a booming vacation town. In fact, a buddy of mine, we call him Spike. Let's call him Spike.
No, Spike?
Spike has a vacation home there and he just loves it. He's had this house. He's at the bottom of Copper Mountain. That's one of the many ski slopes in the county. And he's had his home there for 20 years, and he's been skiing out there for almost 40 years.
It figures you would know somebody named Spike in Summit.
I know Spike in Summit. But listen, I could never describe this place. I'm going to have Elizabeth Lawrence, and she's one of the county commissioners. I'm going to have her describe her home.
Summit County is the most visited national forest in the United States that has 4 world-class ski resorts and hosts millions of visitors a year-round, both for snow skiing and other outdoor recreation.
What do people do when they're not skiing there?
They mountain bike, they enjoy our rivers, they fish, lots of hiking. Summit County was originally a mining county, a mining town. Breckenridge was a historic mining town where gold was found in Colorado early on. In fact, kind of the pre-California gold rush, 1859 is when miners first descended in our Summit County area. And so there's a lot of history there, mining relics, mines that are still open. So a lot of people are coming for historical aspects. And then we do have a lot of art programs that are becoming increasingly popular.
As you probably guessed, Elizabeth's not from there. Like many,
I heard the Southern accent.
Yeah, exactly. Like many of the Summit residents, she came from somewhere else. Her home is in Arkansas, but she came to Summit to ski, and she stayed. And she has a daughter. And when she was a single parent, she needed childcare. And her childcare solution is a little different, but she went to a school and offered her skills as a fundraiser to get her kid into pre-K, which allowed her to stay in the area.
Wow. That's actually very creative, but I'm wondering how typical that is.
Well, the fundraising part's not typical, but yeah, pretty much everyone I talked to, they're from somewhere else. They all moved to Summit or to the city of Breckenridge. That's the biggest city in Summit County. Or they went to other towns. Like I said, Spike has a house in Copper Mountain. Silverthorne, Frisco, Dillon. You come there to be outdoors. Skiing is the biggest draw, snowboarding too, but there's also other outdoor activities. Remember, we're up in the Rocky Mountains. And what this means is that most folks don't have a sister across the street or parents who can pull babysitting duty. So a lot of these young people, they're kind of on their own.
On their own in a beautiful place. But there's a lot going on. So this means it's a good place to visit, but living there sounds like it could be tough.
Okay, so now we're getting into the heart of the story. And here's the story. With all that Summit has to offer, they need a workforce. They need a permanent workforce. That means they need people. And they want the people to stay. I mean, think about this. Let's just imagine for a moment you have a vacation home. You want to build a relationship with the folks that manage your house, that take care of your yard or babysit your kids.
Right. You really want to know that you can trust them. You have somebody coming in and out of your home. It's usually a person's most prized possession. And, you might be away for a while.
Right. Especially if you're away for a while. You want to make sure that you can make a call and talk to that person and have confidence that everything's going to be okay. But first, a word from our sponsor. We're going to hear from NACO. That's the National Association of Counties. The Good Government Show welcomes a new sponsor for season 2, and that's NACO, and that's the National Association of Counties. Carol, did you know that county government affects more people than any other form of government?
Well, I do now. Funny, you would think city or the federal government is bigger.
Well, right, but it's not. You think about this. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water, sewers. In most of the country, those services are maintained by the county. That's county government.
And we want to see good county government, and that's where NACO comes in.
Exactly. They're a nationwide organization that represents all 3,069 counties across the USA.
Now, that's a lot of support and, more importantly, brain power.
Exactly. And they have many organizations and committees, and they do things like share best practices, and they work together on national issues.
And they are urban, suburban, and rural counties that have different challenges, but they can still work together.
Yes, they all work together. So NACO helps county government work better. And as we see in this and other episodes, when county government works, well, that's just good government.
So thanks, NACO, for providing us with great stories and helping support good government.
And thanks, NACO, for supporting the Good Government Show. And remember, citizens, don't forget to vote. Welcome back to the Good Government Show. Now, I'm going to introduce you to Catherine Schaff. She's the program director of Early Childhood Options in Summit County in Colorado. She left her home in New Hampshire to go ski in the Rockies.
That's ironic. New Hampshire has great skiing.
New Hampshire has great skiing. People will tell you the Rockies skiing is just far different.
Snow.
Right. But she left her home in New Hampshire and she said to her mom, I'll be back. Don't worry.
Likely story.
That was 15 years ago. She got married and she stayed. And her husband owns his own painting business, and they have now an almost 8-year-old. But she's exactly the type of person the pre-K program was made for back when she needed pre-K. So I'm going to have her talk about the challenges she faced.
Because of our world-class ski resorts, we also have world-class, mountain homes and timeshares and condos here, and then making it hard for I refer to them as the heartbeat of our community, our nurses, our firefighters, our teachers, our housekeepers, our property managers that keep our community running, struggle to find affordable housing because, the tourists just kind of raise that cost of housing and all other expenses that come along with it.
And the rising costs everywhere, it means expensive childcare, no matter how you cut it.
Right. And that's what Catherine explained to me.
Majority of, a dual income earner's wages are spent on their housing and then also in childcare because both parents are working. I believe our latest statistic just came out that 73% of our families that utilize 0 to 5 childcare are dual income earners. And I say that because it's both parents are working, or if they're a single parent, they're also working full time. And then that means that they need to utilize childcare full time. And childcare expense in our community is about $1,500 a month for full time care.
Well, that is a big monthly bill. So how did this come about?
So 2 things are going on. First, in the city of Breckenridge, that's the largest city in Summit, they already had a model for a free pre-K program. But it was county commissioners, an advisor group, and Lucinda Burns, and she's the executive director of childhood options for Summit. They all recognized that childcare was the biggest issue for a lot of the local people. So they set out to create a program that would support those folks that really are the backbone of Summit.
That's true. When you talk about people who live there as opposed to the visitors, the people who live there, that's the backbone, the structure. The visitors come and go. And as a mother, I can tell you pre-K is so important.
Right. And Lucinda and I talked about that.
Pre-K is important for a couple of reasons, and particularly the way we delivered pre-K in our community. We delivered pre-K in our school district preschool programs, but also in our community childcare centers so that families had access to wraparound childcare so they could actually go to work. So it's important for 3 reasons. Helps families get to work. It ensures that children enter kindergarten ready to succeed because we invested a lot of time and funding into making sure that those programs are high quality for children. And then the third one is it helps us with early identification of children who might have some special learning needs or health needs. So we can get on top of that quickly. And all of that produces a good return on investment for taxpayers.
The taxes.
Taxes.
How did that go down?
Well, actually it went very well. The local voters, they're all the folks that needed the service, so they voted that way. The vacation homeowners, they agreed that having a stable workforce was important and one of the draws that keeps people to stay there. So while there are always folks who say no to any new taxes, for the most part, there was fairly strong support for this all around.
All right, so you're saying it was local funding?
Mostly. So it comes from a local mill levy. And what that basically is a property tax. The levy raises about $2.5 million a year, and the majority of that money goes to education. So there's also state and federal dollars that flow into the Summit program. But basically, yes, the biggest chunk came from locals.
Well, that's good news. Support for taxes.
No, it's not support for taxes. It's support for childcare. It's support for families, and it's support for a stronger community.
Okay. Strong community is important. How does the program work, though?
So the Summit Pre-K currently serves about 225 kids, but they combine with other programs for preschool education and childcare. They reach about 80% of all Summit preschool age kids.
That's a pretty impressive number. So do the parents have to pay anything?
Well, it is an impressive number. So here's how it works. Basically, what happens is parents apply to the program. Mostly it's word of mouth. That's how they get the word out, but they do promote it a little bit. But once they apply, they're interviewed. They provide income documentation, and then there's a selection process. The parents pay a percentage of what they can afford based on their income. Full payments for pre-K is around $1,400 a month. But prior to that, pre-K program parents were footing about 80% of the costs. Now they're only paying about 20%.
Oh, that is a big decline. 20% of $1,400, it's about $280. Wow. I can tell you as a working mom, that would be such a big help. when I was paying for childcare, the money seemed like it was just slipping through my fingers. I couldn't hold on to it.
I guess that's why you're still working
Teflon
today,
money.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to have you listen to Catherine because she talks about that.
Well, these parents are super grateful of, receiving these tuition credits on behalf of their children. They've seen, growth in that last year of childcare, if they've been in childcare since, infancy. They appreciate, that preparedness that they have for kindergarten. They have higher confidence for their children being successful in those K through 12 years. I've also heard, that they've been able to maybe pay off a credit card or pay off old student loans that they've had. Maybe someone even gets to save a little bit of money so they can go on their first family vacation. I mean, any of those, I think, are positive influence in our community and keeping, people happy and thriving here in Summit.
All of this sounds like it's going really well. Is there support there for like the entire program?
It is going really well. And here's the thing. The kids are better prepared for kindergarten, and parents, they have a smaller childcare bill.
That's a big deal.
Yes, it is. And I want to bring back Commissioner Elizabeth Lawrence. She is really the driving force behind keeping this program moving forward because for her, it really is personal.
I happen to be the very first recipient of the tuition assistance program. My daughter was in Breckenridge in 2007 when they began that program. And I vowed then, well, this is allowing us to stay in this community. And I will do whatever I can to give back in that way and make sure that other kids have that same opportunity. And it's just gone on since then.
Well, that is a strong advocate from the county commissioner's office right at the top.
It is. And let me just tell you something about Elizabeth. She may be small, but this woman is a fireball. And this is
really
something. Yeah, she is.
That's what it takes.
Exactly. And the parents who have kids in pre-K, they're so happy. It's really made a difference. So I want to introduce you to some parents. Austin Deanan has lived in Breckenridge for 14 years. She met her husband there about 12 years ago, and they have 2 boys. By the way, the morning I talked to her, she was up at 6 a.m. for a quick ski run. Yep.
I can't imagine that.
Yes,
go ahead.
Up at 6 to get it. Well, that's what you do when you live there. But she started as a snowboarder, and here's something funny. She said her husband wouldn't marry her until she became a skier.
What?
Yep. So she skis. These people are serious about their skiing out there.
Either that or he is one fantastic guy.
I'm sure it's both. But she skis in the winter, and in the summer she mountain bikes. So she's taking full use of the Rockies.
Yeah, she really wanted to stay.
Yeah, she did. And she said once they got married, they realized they really did want to stay, and they wanted to raise their kids there. And the pre-K program really has changed their life for sure.
So in Breckenridge and a lot of, high cost of living destinations across the globe, those childcare costs have to mimic the cost of living, right? They need to pay staff. They need to be able to maintain sustainable budgets. And our high cost of childcare, that's $20,000. And it's an expensive place to live. And so that summer pre-K or the Summit pre-K program has allowed our family, like I said, to live here, but also to, open a business, participate in the community, and really, how do I say it? Live, right? Just live.
And she really credits local government with a foresight to see that something needed to change.
And it's really our local leaders that really came together and realized, if we don't do something, this subset of our community is gone, or at least their cost burden. And what kind of life is that? So it was kind of a shock when it originally passed. And now it takes that burden off of the family shoulders. So it's nothing short of incredible from a community standpoint.
Virginia Hammock came to Summit from Alabama 14 years ago. Another person that moved to Summit from somewhere else. She and her husband have a 4-year-old son. She's seen other families leave because of the high costs, and that includes the high cost of childcare.
Honestly, this place has such a high cost of living. Even though my husband and I are self-employed, it became almost impossible to be able to afford daycare. That being said, again, because of the high cost of living, neither of us could afford not to work. So, after paying a high lump sum of money for daycare for almost 4 years, we were ecstatic to receive this credit that helped us, keep our jobs, our livelihoods, and also keep our son in school getting a really great education in the pre-K program.
This really does allow them to stay when a program works so well.
So listen to what Virginia has to say about that.
90% of our daycare is paid for. So we are only required to pay for 10%. But it means freedom. It means the ability to stay in the community where we have learned and grown as a family. It means being able to keep our small businesses going here in Summit County, in a place where, my business in particular really benefits the locals and the local economy here. But yeah, it allows for a lot of freedom for us to stay and live where we want to.
Such a huge help for families. But what about what the kids are getting in school? I mean, there is a pre-K, there's daycare. Are they getting a good quality education?
They are. And Virginia says she's seen some really big changes in her own kid.
So he gets, daily interactions with other children his age. And they're teaching him lots of valuable social, emotional skills. I'm blown away constantly about how curious he is about learning how to read, wanting to write his letters. And I just don't think he would ever have achieved that had he not been in a pre-K program. They listen to music. He's really interested in learning how to play an instrument. He's learning about gardening. I mean, just the plethora of knowledge and love that he gets from his teachers and his school is just, it's indescribable how valuable it is to myself and my son.
These parents really have some great stories, and this program really does make a difference, I suppose. I wish I had quality education, quality pre-K education for my kids once my parents could no longer babysit. And it was less than stellar what I had, but it was what was in the neighborhood.
See, what you needed to do is you needed to pack everything up in your Volvo station wagon. Right. Go out to Breckenridge and become a ski bum. I'm sure there's a radio station there somewhere.
Yeah, but can you imagine my Italian family hollering from New York?
I'm sure there's a morning shift somewhere out there that needs a news reporter. Anyway, here's another benefit. When you have kids in school early, it also helps identify kids that might have special needs. So they get that special attention sooner, and it helps them succeed later.
That is really so important to have an extra pair of eyes looking at your child, because, sometimes they see things that a parent doesn't see. Because you see kids all the time, you don't pick up those subtle differences. So that's really great.
That's a good point. So listen, when we come back, we're going to meet more pre-K parents right after this break.
The Good Government Show is sponsored by Liquid.
So here's the thing about Liquid. They do their homework. So Carol, I'm going to give you a fun fact. A recent study found that over 80% of retail shoppers conduct online research before making a purchase. Do you do that?
Yeah, I like to know what I'm buying. But if you're a business, it takes more time than researching for a new TV, say.
Yeah, and for a business, you really have to do your research, and you really have to evaluate who you're working with and make sure the company you're about to partner with is a good fit.
And that makes sense. So you want to stand out to other companies that are checking out your company.
And that's where Liquid comes in. They can help your business create a digital presence with impact so you can be impressive to new businesses and, keep your customers.
And it's not just about a website. See how much I learned about Liquid since the first season?
Well, of course. Well, Liquid's our partners. We want to know everything about them. And what they can do is they can guide you to where to advertise, and they can make sure your social media is relevant and that it engages your customers. And they make sure your digital story answers your potential customers' questions before they even ask them.
And that's what Liquid is good at, creating a full marketing and online digital presence.
Liquid's been around for nearly 2 decades. They have lots of experience and a lot of research to back up their plans.
And they have a team of designers, marketers, strategists, and developers. They can help companies in many industries with award-winning creative campaigns, content, and websites.
All good reasons to have Liquid plan your next digital marketing strategy. So check them out and talk to a Liquid professional. Visit them at www.liquidint.com.
And you will love Liquid as much as we do.
Because we love Liquid. We want to welcome back as a sponsor to the Good Government Show, Kutztown University of Kutztown, Pennsylvania.
And you want to talk about their rugby team.
Well, they do have a good rugby team. They just won a national tournament. And what I did was I called a friend. His daughter played at Kutztown. She played on the rugby team. And I asked him, What did he like best about Kutztown?
You mean besides the rugby team?
Well, yeah, besides the team, obviously the team first. But he responded to me and said something I didn't know. His favorite thing is the chicken tower, or it's also called the Angry Chicken.
What? I hesitate to ask. The Angry Chicken?
Well, it's such a landmark that it's actually the school's logo. It's a clock tower, and apparently when you look from a special angle, the clock looks a little bit like a chicken with an open beak. So It's the Angry Chicken.
Okay, then. Well, let's talk about the other stuff, like that their degree program in music business is now nationally accredited. They offer undergraduate certificates in cybersecurity and technical writing.
So is this what we do? Is this technical writing?
No. Take a class and maybe get better at writing.
Oh, come on. That's not fair. You know what? You would benefit from the new graduate certificate program and be a school social worker. Maybe you'd be nicer.
All right. Well, the point is Kutztown is a forward-looking university. They also offer Pell Promise scholarships. And for students who qualify, student tuitions and fees are all covered.
And that's just some of why we like Kutztown and are happy to be associated with this university. Oh, and my friend thought it was really cool that sometimes the locals, they ride through in a horse and buggy. So check out Kutztown University. That's Kutztown University, and cheer on the rugby team.
Of course.
Yes, please.
So we're in Summit County, Colorado, where parents are getting help with their preschool kids. You have more parents, David?
I have more parents. I have more skiers and more mountain bikers and more parents.
I love it.
Yes, good. All right. So let's meet a busy mother who's also a nurse.
My name is Chris Wahoviak. I am a mom to 3, a first grader, a pre-K, and a 2-year-old. And we have our pre-K enrolled in the SPK program, where he receives tuition funding reimbursement for us for the care that he gets at a licensed facility. And it's an awesome program. And honestly, we wouldn't be able to afford the awesome care that he's getting without it.
That was Chris. She's a nurse and her husband's a firefighter, and they work shifts. So they had their first kid and they left Breckenridge because they were both finishing up school and they needed that support. But when they had their second kid and they graduated, they came back because this is where they wanted to live. They both work. Like I said, they work shifts, but it's tough.
By having Em in preschool, we've been able to spend money on other things like food. Like you said, Summit County is the most expensive place to live, and we do not have salaries that support that. So we are able to meet basic life necessities on the fact that we don't have to pay that monthly tuition for him to go to pre-K, and know that he's in a safe place. When I'm coming off night shift, I'm sleeping because I'm going back in that night. So knowing that he is in a safe place where he's learning and growing, and he loves it. It makes a world of difference.
So this program really changed lives, didn't it?
Definitely. It has allowed families to stay, and it helps create a community. It's a community of people where other people want to return for vacation or to have their second home. It's a place where they feel like they're at home because of the people that live there.
So that's so great, but that's just one area. Is this growing so other people can take advantage of this kind of thing?
Yes, it's growing, and they're growing as fast as they can. So what they have are these preschools. They have these educational centers throughout the county. They want to add more. They want to put some in more locations where there isn't a school currently. And they want to hire more teachers, always a challenge. But if they had more teachers, they'd have more space for more kids.
In Summit County, sounds like a role model for another county.
I think we're a model for resort communities, certainly, that says we care about having kids in our community. It is a priority and value to us. I think that's important. And do I think elsewhere in the country should invest in preschool? Absolutely.
Wow, she answered my question.
You're good.
I'm all good.
You and Elizabeth are on the same page.
You know what, David?
What?
This program is good, and it shows how other counties, how it can be done.
It is. And next year, Colorado is going to have a 10-hour-a-week universal pre-K program. So Summit's already way ahead of what the state's offering, but that's going to give them some more funding. So that's going to allow Summit to expand their program with all those state dollars.
Wow. So who gets the last word on this one?
Well, I'm going back to one of my parents, Virginia. She really explains why the pre-K program makes Summit County a special place.
I think if you really want a community to grow and flourish and be a beautiful place, you have to have people who live here for a long time and really do love and appreciate it. But that same sentiment goes for, you have to have a local government that's willing to help the people out who do live here. So I really do think the flavor and the attitude of the people and everything would change if you didn't have people who could afford to stay here long term. You wouldn't be able to walk down downtown Breckenridge and get a smiley reception from, pretty much anyone in any business. It would be a lot of people who are just kind of making it work, living under horrid conditions, and then moving on for the next year. I think most people recognize that in their hometown, that they stay for a reason, and the reason is the community, not because of the amenities that the town offers.
Well, she really summed that up nicely.
Yeah, there you go. Good government in Summit County, Colorado.
That is good government all around. They saw a need. They realized how important it was in maintaining the community, and they came up with a way to afford it.
Well, think about it. You go to a vacation spot, and you go to your favorite restaurant, and the bartender from last year remembers your name, or the waitress remembers your drink order, stuff like that. That
people
matters.
love that.
Right. That matters. And when you can be home and you can call up your house manager and go, hey, can you take the trash cans out, or can you remember to prune the tree? And you know that you've got people there.
Pour some linguine in the pot.
You could do that too. So you just can't take the Italian out of the girl.
No.
So having a community like that really matters. And that's what Summit recognized. So listen, they got support from all the people who value Summit County, and not just as a tourist destination, but it's really a place that people call home, even if it's their second home. And it's both for those folks who are there year round, but also for those other people who are flying in just on the weekends, or just for the winter, or just for the summer. It makes it a home they want to come back to.
And those second homes, they help really keep the economy running. They're buying from the local shops. They hire the local landscapers, the local house managers, eating in those local restaurants.
Right. See, it's all interconnected.
Absolutely. So I have a question. Very important.
Yes.
Does Spike rent out his house?
Well, are you thinking about a little trip to Summit?
This is very tempting. It sounds so nice.
Are you going to take up skiing?
Well, I used to ski.
You did?
I did.
Would you say you were a skier?
I never got to the diamond, the hardest mountain, but I could do intermediate.
All right. Well, that's good. All right. Well,
but it was a long time ago.
We can hook you up with Spike and you can go skiing. Or listen, how about going this summer? You can take a little mountain biking.
That I could do, and rafting. I would like that. Yeah, hiking.
Fishing?
Yeah, I actually like to fish.
You fish?
Yeah.
Right.
I could put the worm on the hook.
Well, this is probably more fly fishing.
Right. Okay. Well, I never did that.
10 and 2. Right. Okay. Well, you know what? You go out to Summit County, hook you up with a fly fishing guide, and boom, you're a fly fisherman.
I'll be in.
All right. So listen, go to thegoodgovernmentshow.com. Check out our website. We have a link to a rental right there. Other links for other stuff we've seen. And you can meet Elizabeth. There's a picture of Elizabeth and I, because we met up when we were when I was out in Colorado. I met up with Elizabeth. We talked. So that's our show. Thanks for listening to The Good Government Show. I'm Dave Martin.
And I'm Carol Dioria.
Thanks for listening to how one resort community changed the lives of its residents, all through a good government program. We'll see you next time on The Good Government Show. Thanks for listening. If you like our show, please tell your friends to listen too. Follow us and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and be part of the conversation. And please give us a 5-star rating right here where you're listening to this podcast. Your support helps us continue to tell stories of good government in action. For extras on all of our shows, visit our website, goodgovernmentshow.com. The Good Government Show is produced by Valley Park Productions. Jim Ludlow, David Martin, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Jason Stershic is our editor and producer. Some transcriptions were done by Kofi, Ajeasi, Ampah. Our hosts are me, David Martin, and Carol Dioria. Join us again for The Good Government Show wherever you listen to your podcasts.